recorded. Welcome to the first Caregiver Support Community statewide call or webinar of 2022. This is a virtual format I'm a little less familiar with. Historically, I've utilized a few others formats, so just bear with me as I make sure people are admitted from the lobby or the waiting room into our webinar today. I have actively muted all of you right now just so we don't have background noise. If you'd like to speak or want to share information, please do so in a couple of different ways. You can do that by utilizing the chat feature. Today I have the time to monitor the chat, so I'll be sure to look at that while Kunal is presenting today. And I think maybe a good place to start would be just an introduction of myself. I am the newest Older Americans Act consultant, Bryn Seaman. Some of you may know me. I've had work previously with Winnebago County as the aging director, as well as EPS and benefit specialist supervisor. And many of you I don't know. So in this new role as caregiver, family caregiver specialist, my hope is to be able to provide support, ideas, help with these webinars and meeting to give you resources, and really just in tandem with Lynn to really help make your NFCSP and AFCSP programs valuable to your community. Because we do have a packed agenda today, I am going to stop speaking myself and turn it over to first updates with Janet, then Lynn. I have a couple of updates myself, and then much of the meeting will be spent with Kunar's presentation about that. Okay, with that, Janet, would you like to share updates?
Sure. Good morning. Glad to see everyone. I have a lengthy list of updates, so I'm going to go through them very quickly, but rest assured you don't have to write like crazy. I will send a copy of the updates to Bryn to share with the meeting minutes. So know that you'll have this in front of you shortly. The first things I want to share are some updates related to voting in the elections, and that's really important to those of you who work with caregivers, because a high percentage of older adults and people with disabilities vote absentee due to health and disability related concerns. Early
Janet is muted.
Yes.
I'm not sure why I was muted, but I've unmuted myself. So absentee ballot drop boxes have been used throughout the state of Wisconsin for a long time now. Many communities have used them, and even more so after the pandemic. So this ruling, which says we can't use drop boxes or assist people in returning absentee ballots, was a pretty big surprise. That ruling was set to take effect January 24th. But in fact, several advocacy groups that support the use of drop boxes and assistance for returning absentee ballots took that case and asked for a reversal of that ruling. After several attempts, I'm trying to make this short, the District Court of Appeals did in fact rule that they would put a stay on that, which would mean that absentee ballot drop boxes and assistance in helping people return absentee ballots would be allowed for the upcoming election, which is February 15th. This is a really important local election. County board supervisors, there's a mayoral election in Milwaukee. This is the primary for these elections and is a really important one, and we don't want to confuse voters. So while the Court of Appeals sort of takes a look at this judge's ruling on the merits of the case, while this process is going on, drop boxes and ballot return assistance will be allowed in Wisconsin. I have a list of a whole bunch of voting resources that will be available to help you and the people you work with from the Disability Vote Coalition, and I will have links to those. We're also having an upcoming Zoom event about the importance of local elections And that's going to be on February 2nd from 6 to 7:15 p.m., where a variety of disability advocates who've held local office will talk about the importance of these elections, what local officials do, why they matter, and the government's role on disability and aging related services. So stay tuned for, I will include a flyer with registration information for that forum. My other two quick updates are around the Older Americans Act funding. Our national partners are urging us right now to advocate for fiscal year 2022 funding that includes House level funding for our Older Americans Act programs. Many of you know this legislation has been stalled. The federal budget year ended on September 30th. We've been in a continuing resolution, a second one now, that goes until February 18th. And there's reason to be concerned that if we don't get this across the finish line soon, they will again extend the continuing resolution either for another few months or even as long as the entire federal fiscal year. Why does that matter? Well, because you're going to continue operating at your 2021 levels of funding, which we know are not enough to meet your current needs, much less any growing needs. So I have included an advocacy alert for you to make contact with both of our U.S. senators as well as your U.S. representative to encourage that funding increase. And for those of you who are concerned about lobbying, I really encourage you to share how important permanent funding is for caregiver support services for the caregivers in your community. Last but not least, we've been talking a lot about the Buildback Better Act, which has been stalled now in Congress for some time around voting rights and filibuster rules and things like that. There is some hope that some of that package might get passed, and those things that aren't included in the package will perhaps pass as separate bipartisan language. I'll remind you there was significant increases for Older Americans Act COVID relief funding, as well as some of the other aging service programs, and as important, a retroactive waiver of the state and federal local match requirement for Older Americans Act funding that was included in your ARPA funding. So it's really important to remind them that the Build Back Better Act or some other mechanism must include this waiver of match requirements so that these ARPA dollars can be spent at the state and local level. So again, there's an action alert included in what I will send to you via Bryn to make contact on these really important issues. Thank you. I'll answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll let you move on. Thank you.
Again, those of you who joined, I do have you muted. So if there's any questions, you can press *6 or click on the mic icon to unmute yourself and ask, or utilize the chat box. Hearing none, I will then ask Lynn if she has any updates from DHS to provide.
Lynn, you're still muted.
Well, I will share the updates that I have with GWAR. And in the meantime, we'll see if we can unmute Lynn. So a couple of the updates that I have, and I will try and keep them short, are that first is we are looking to create a type of core curriculum for NFCSP, AFCSP programming. And what I mean by that is those that are newer to NFCSP, AFCSP programming, or even new aging directors don't necessarily have consistent or kind of as needed training information. So what we are hoping to do is to create on-demand trainings that tend to a variety of learning styles. So recording modules that will allow for listening. The modules will also be available video so that you can view the presenter. There'll be short quizzes following, truly just a question or two to test your knowledge, not to trick you at all. And then all the materials will be printed. So based on your learning style or how you work best, we're hoping to make those upcoming trainings available to this larger statewide group. And with that, we want to make sure that we're training on the necessary things. Jane is amazing and already had the NFCSP 101 training completed with audio, so that's now in production. Hopefully that'll be available on our website in the next couple of weeks. And I am now working on the AFCSP training. We also have some suggestions of what those other core curriculum trainings might be. Motivational interviewing, kinship navigator portal training for the caseworker, grieving, the grieving caregiver series of training. So for any of you out there who might have a talent, a skill, a desire to kind of craft any of the training materials, what I would ask is if you could email me directly. It's the spelling of my name at gwar.org. So that's bryn.ceman.org. And if you're interested, it will be a short commitment. I think what we'll do is we would just, oh, God bless you. If you aren't muted, maybe now is a good time or reminder just to go ahead and mute yourself. We would meet on the off months. So we have a meeting this month in January, then next month in February, that small group of us could get together with Lingal, of course, and share ideas of what some of those core competency and training areas could be and collect materials for the trainings to occur. And then we would share out what that list is and what our ideas are come March. And then hopefully as soon as April, we would have some nearing completion or completion of what those core competencies are. The other way, if you're afraid you'll forget to email, is go ahead and write your name as a volunteer in the chat, and I will be viewing that throughout today's presentation so that I can compile the list. Lastly, the only other update that I have is really a request. It was brought to our attention that the Caregiver Event Speaker Bureau list is outdated. So it looks like this was yet from 2019, pre-COVID times. Conferences were canceled, more were being held virtually versus in person. So if you guys know of presenters that might be available to our larger caregiver support community, whether it's for caregiver support groups or presenters for our professional community. Again, easy way to just share that information with me and I'll compile a list. Go ahead and throw those in the chat or email me directly. And again, I will bring those to our next meeting so that you all have an idea of what we've collected so far. And then I'll get those posted on our GWAR website as far as professionals that you might want to seek some presentation or information about. So we'll see, since I'm nearing the end of my updates. Lynn, are you able to unmute and share updates?
Yes, hi everyone. I was stuck in the lobby, so I'm finally here. I could hear you in the lobby, but you couldn't hear me apparently. So anyway, here I am. Hi, good morning, everyone. I've got 4 things for you today, kind of quick here. First of all, I just want to remind you about the new COVID at home tests that are available from the federal government for free. You probably have seen there's been a flood of information about them, so I'm sure that I'm not the first person to tell you, but just to remind you that the website covidtests.gov is available for every household to get 4 at-home COVID tests. So if you don't have that information, please share it among the network and the caregivers so that, you know, that's a good feeling just to know you can do that at home and you don't have to run out to get it when you need them. So the second thing I wanted to just let people know, I think I might have mentioned this too, is that today is the first day of a joint meeting between the RAISE Caregivers Council and the Supporting Grandparents, Raising Grandchildren Advisory Committees. Those 2 meetings, it's actually at 11:30 today. After I get off this call, I'm going to jump on there. They're going to be meeting to start developing a national caregiving strategy. So that's even if you can't attend all of their meetings, and today, who knows, they might just be doing you know, a lot of formation kind of stuff today, who knows, but I'm going to jump in and see. But this national caregiving strategy is going to be really important for us as we plan at the state. We're going to sort of be aligned, or at least know where they're going, because funding very likely will follow any strategy that they come up with. So just to be aware of that, and pop in and go to their website when you get a chance. I also want to let you know that the link to submit your 2021 AFCSP fiscal reports is going to be coming probably next week. I've got the link ready, but I'll send that out probably on Monday so that you can submit your expenditures for 2021 and get that. It won't be due until toward the end of March, but if you want to get it done, you can go ahead and submit that as soon as I send you the link. The last thing I want to mention too is just that the Wisconsin Family and Caregiver Support Alliance is also, we're doing a recruiting effort to get some new members involved. So whatever, if you've ever thought about becoming part of the Alliance, either as, you know, a supporter, or we really do need some more active members since we had a few people leave for other job opportunities who aren't doing it in a professional capacity anymore. So if you would like to get involved with any of the work groups or on the steering committee, or just learn more about it, please reach out to me and I can hook you up with the current chairs. I was the former chair, so I can tell you pretty much anything you need to know. So yeah, please join us. We would love to have you and hear your ideas of how we can help caregivers in our state. And that's it.
Okay, with that, Kunal, are you ready to present?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. I would also like to mention that I have Laura Jane on the call with me, who's going to be helping me with monitoring the chat box, all of your questions, comments, and stuff like that. I'm trying to share my screen. Let me know how that goes.
That's the second thing that's worked today. Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome. We have been in a partnership with Wisconsin for almost 2 years now, and it is incredible what we've achieved in those 2 years. In order to grow the program, in order to help the staff community do what they're doing even better, we figured this would be a good opportunity for us to have a sort of a workshop, answer any questions, show you some new updates on the portal. So our plan for today is to go through some of the new updates, a very brief discussion on identifying caregivers and what to do when a caregiver registers. We may not be able to get through all of it today, but that is fine. Your portal is wisconsincaregiver.trualta.com. We highly recommend to bookmark or favorite this domain, and also encourage your caregivers to do so. Quick show of hands, how many of you already have access to the TruAlta portal?
Where are my hands?
All right, we're seeing a lot of people, and that is very reassuring. Thank you guys so much for your support. I'm going to show you the new updates. This is what the cover page looks like now. We kind of turned it from a modular block kind of a thing into a much more palatable design. You can see that caregivers have the option to log in, the existing caregivers, and new caregivers have an option to sign up. There is an information video on here, which is really just 1 minute long. It lets caregivers know what they can do on TruAlta, what the features are, how to use them. And the fact that it's only 1 minute long speaks volumes about how simple and easy it is to use for them. One thing I want to show you guys is, which you may not be aware of already, is the registration process for caregivers. When they click on sign up, we ask them what county or tribe they live in, and it's already populated with the whole list. For sake of familiarity, I'm going to go ahead with Kenosha. Uh, and then let's say they're caring for someone over the age of 60 and has cognitive decline. When they click on next, it automatically takes them to the registration process where they will be able to register under the caregiver coordinator assigned for Kenosha County. In this case, it's Margaret. So they're asked to fill in put in an email and select a password and a few more demographic details on the next page. Once they're done with that, we have a very interesting onboarding process for the caregivers. It looks something like this. We want to offer them a very targeted content recommendation so that it can help them get started right away. We ask them how they'd like to begin, if they would like to get a recommendation from us, or they would just like to explore on their own. 86% of caregivers in the last 5 months have selected get a customized recommendation. When they click on it, we ask them, okay, this was a demo thing I was using, so I'm gonna log in again and I'm gonna show you guys. So when the first question is the purpose, what topic is most relevant to you? Is it Alzheimer's, general aging, are there grandparents raising a grandchild, or is it stroke? One thing we'll be adding this week is intellectual and developmental disabilities to this list. Let's say it's Alzheimer's. The second question would be what they need help with. Is it caring for themselves, caring for their loved one, and finding some other programs and services? Let's select take care of myself. And then the third question is how much help do you need with self-care? Do you just need like a little bit of help, or do you need a lot of help? You've just got the diagnosis and you don't know how to deal with it. So that would be like a lot of help. And based on the answers they select on these 3 questions, we give them a content recommendation right away. So it really is a way for us to get them started in the right direction, to give them what they need at that point in time to build that trust. I'm going to log in again and show you what the other new features look like. There's a learning tab. We have reorganized our library into courses and lessons. Each course is a group of thematically grouped lessons, and there's something available for every caregiver, whether it's someone who's just received the diagnosis or it's someone who has been caring for their loved one for a long, long time. There's something new everyone can learn. There's also lessons that are categorized and filtered by individual topics. For example, nutrition as a siloed factor. If they want to learn just about nutrition, they can click on it and get some lessons related right to nutrition. When they complete a course, they earn a badge, and those badges will appear on the top right, on the top ribbon right here. One other significant change is a community icon. We're trying to add more and more features to mitigate social isolation and to make caregivers feel that they're not alone. The challenges they're feeling are real, but others have gone through those, and we want to create a way for caregivers to learn from other peers as well. On the community tab, you can see care stories, which is a really new addition. Care stories are caregiver interviews that we did, and we found some really unique caregiver perspectives or things that they did in situations with their loved ones. These are all, of course, the name and the identity has been changed for privacy purposes, but all of those are like very real caregiver stories. I would really recommend even you to go check them out and to see what goes on in a caregiver's mind when they're faced with a difficult situation. And then we also have events. Right now, there are no active events, but there's always, this is going to be a place for us to add any new events that the Team Troalta is doing, or even the state of Wisconsin is doing. For example, if there's a support group that is being held in any of your regions, we can add that as an event right here. And caregivers have the option to have that as an event calendar that they can see all in a glance. That is a very quick run through most of the recent updates. Pardon my mouse. My mouse has a mind of its own. I have to say that. We have a course on intellectual and developmental disabilities coming up this week as well. That is, there are 3 courses in total and 22 lessons. It dives really deep into how to care for someone with those disabilities. It's time for me to ask you guys a question now. What are some local services and programs in your region that you want to highlight on the portal? And it could be anything. It could be like a Meals on Wheels service. It could be a support group. I'm giving out a lot of the answers, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to let you guys chime in.
Hi, Kunal. This is Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
I just wanted to mention that I had a call with one of the ADRCs, and it was kind of an interesting discussion where the topic came up of AOTA, alcohol and other drug abuse, and especially we've been seeing a lot more of that going on. So maybe either as itself or under medication management, some information about how to notice if somebody might be abusing their prescription or is addicted, and what to do, connections to people who can help you. That was one thing I've heard talking to people. So if anybody's on the call who told me that, feel free to jump in and expand on that.
That is some perspective I'll definitely take to our content team, who can probably get some resources ready in that on that topic. I see some very interesting ideas in the chat box. Powerful tools for caregivers workshops. Amazing idea. It's something a lot of our other clients have also leveraged. Dementia education presentations. Amazing. Alisa said caregiver support groups. I think caregiver support groups is also a very good idea because that way caregivers have everything in one place. They can find all of the lessons and they can find information about the support groups all in the same place. Memory cafes and respite programs. All of these are amazing ideas. Can I get all of you to send me just some information about these topics that you've put forward, and I'll take charge of adding all of these events to the portal. That way we can keep the events list like an up and running and a current list. At any point of time, even in the future, if you ever feel like there's an event you want to see on the portal, definitely let me know. Something I just noted down on my little notepad in the beginning of the presentation was the COVID at-home tests that are available to families. That would be some useful information to add on the portal as well, because caregivers might need those at any point in time. And then the election details, the Feb 15th election that is coming up. If there's a special assistance provided to caregivers, if there's any kind of service provided to them, or even some general details about how to vote, that would be some interesting local information to put on there.
Kunal, this is Bryn. While I welcome people to email you directly, a good place for us to maybe start building that calendar, maybe pulling from the wisconsincaregiver.org site on our virtual and online meetings. Those are ongoing monthly or weekly meetings that I too am looking to update for the year 2022. So maybe you and I can meet again offline, make sure those are all imported into the True-Alta calendar as well. And then you can just add from there.
For sure. I see there's some people raising their hands. Do you want to chime in? Do you want to unmute?
They may possibly still have their hands raised from when you asked a showing of who utilizes True-Alta.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Going forward, I want to focus on identifying caregivers. And we've got a lot of questions around who is an eligible caregiver who can use True-Alta. And really the answer is there is no eligibility criteria as such, because everyone would benefit, all caregivers would benefit from some information on the portal. It's very wide in the repertoire of information that it provides. So just as some broad eligibility criteria, they would need an internet connection, whether it's at home, whether it's at a library, whether it's at a friend's place. They just need some kind of internet connection to be able to access the portal. They would need an available device. Now, the good thing is it works on a computer, tablet, or smartphone all the same. It is optimized to look good on all three, so they can use just any available device. And then a perceived need by the caregiver for more help with managing care at home. Now, this is a subjective eligibility criteria that we've put on here, and it's also, it waxes and wanes. One day a caregiver would be confident and they probably don't really need anything, but a week later there's a behavioral symptom. The loved one starts wandering, or the loved one starts getting more agitated and anxious, and that is when the caregivers need the information. So with these eligibility criteria in mind, my guess is all caregivers would benefit from the True-Alta lessons. In your day-to-day work, what are some places you will find caregivers to introduce True-Alta to? And again, this is an open-ended question. Please feel free to unmute or use the chat box. And this might as well just be like a very broad question, because the broader thing that I want to understand is, what is your correspondence with caregivers? Like, where do you interact with caregivers?
This is Tara, and in our county, we have a caregiver support packet that we give to new clients, and we have the True-Alta information in there.
Amazing, thank you.
Lisa Hurley from Sheboygan, and I do care consultations with caregivers on the phone usually, sometimes maybe as a walk-in, and I ask them if they have an email address to send out weekly emails about caregiver information, and then I do discuss usually at the end about True-Alta and would they like information regarding that, or if I can sign them up, and they give me permission to utilize their email addresses. And I'm happy to say that Sheboygan County has 40 caregivers registered with True-Alta.
That's a massive win. I would like snap for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just received an email today that another one that I had actually referred a while ago, because I do go in periodically, you know, you can invite them and it might just not be the right timing for them, but I always go back in and resend the invitation, and that has worked for me. Because it just might be the right time for them. Maybe things have calmed down a little bit and they're looking for a little bit more education.
Absolutely. My mouse. This is your meeting. I'm still waiting for anyone else who wants to chime in.
Kunal, we have a question in the chat box.
Yes.
Coming in from Rosalie. Rosalie, thank you for your question. Is there a one-page flyer that we can use to post on our Facebook site or in our tribal and elder newsletter?
Okay, amazing question. I'll get to that question in about 5 minutes, if that's okay.
I will flag it and remind you then. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys probably already had these ideas. Any virtual support groups? The caregivers are already coming together for the support group. They're already implicitly saying that they're ready to get some resources, interact with others, and are ready for some more insight. So caregivers coming to virtual support groups would be amazing candidates to add to the portal. Any calls for questions or help, or as Laura Jean calls it, information and assistance, those caregivers would also benefit from the information because they're already calling for the information. Any caregiver service providers, including respite providers, they would have a well-maintained caregiver registry or list, and those caregivers would also be incredible additions. And then any other direct services you have, like Meals on Wheels or any outsourced services, you can always attach like a postcard or a flyer along with that to spread the word. I want to get a little more into marketing and promotion, but before I get into it, there's two questions that I want to discuss. Like, what does your correspondence with caregivers look like? Is it emails, inbound or outbound calls, newsletters, social media or your website, or support groups? Which one do you think is the most prominent one? And this might vary region by region.
This is Margaret from Kenosha. I have an email newsletter that I put out, and since I took over this position, I've started to put little things about TruAlta on that newsletter. And now that I've officially kicked off my TruAlta experience, I already have 9 people signed up. I'm following up those news. I know, right? I'm following up the newsletters with emails to people that have recently taken powerful tools, because I know they have the computer and everything. And I sent those emails yesterday, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 responses since yesterday that are already linked and signed on. So yes, my plan is to continue to add more about TruAlta into the newsletters and then follow up with people that have interest.
Awesome, thank you. The second question, which broadly looks like, what does caregiver outreach look like at your organization or AAA or agency? Do you guys have in-person health fairs? Do you provide any materials like caregiver support packets? Or do you guys host any special events? With these two questions in mind as the guiding principles of what your marketing and promotion efforts would look like, we would go on to the next one. And these are some of the tangible tools that you can use and leverage for your marketing and promotion. If you have any calls and emails, you can use our snippets document for speaking notes. It's a very beautifully crafted document. It's some language that we have seen resonate with caregivers. It's organized into questions like what is TrueAlta and how to use TrueAlta and how should you get access. And those could be your speaking points. If you want to send an email to a caregiver, you can just copy and paste this email as well. This is all available on the snippets document on our staff space. I will put the link in the chat box. Basically, we understand that not everyone has the bandwidth or capacity to do all of the marketing. So we want to do the heavy lifting for you, and we want to provide you with these tools that are that you can use to do your marketing. And then there's marketing for every channel, whether it's newsletters, whether it's social media posts, websites, or in-person marketing. If you have a newsletter, whether it's printed or it's an email newsletter, you can just use this PDF that is available on the staff space, and you can add your logo, and you can put in the wisconsincaregiver.truealta.com link here and just use it. It's all ready to go. It's easily downloadable, easily customizable using Canva. I'm going to take a second to put in the staff space link in the chat box. This link is where you'll find all of these materials that I'm showing you. There's also social media posts available. You can download them and use them on your social media. They have the right information. They have the right words that we know work with caregivers. So they're very good hooks for caregivers to get online and get registered. For your website, you can have a widget like this. This is an example of a AAA we have partnered with. And they have this hovering banner right at the bottom of the screen. Do you want to access TrueAlta's caregiver learning platform? Log in or sign up. And in order to have this widget, you can just get in contact with me. It takes 10 minutes. Honestly, it does not take longer than that. Also, some ideas on websites. Websites do not have to be word heavy. You can just add like a banner like this, also available on the staff space, to your website. If you have any person on your IT team or your communications team, they'll be able to do this very, very easily. You can also embed the 1-minute video on your website, again, available on the staff space. For in-person marketing, we have these flyers and brochures. We also have some postcards available for use, easily downloadable and printable. If you want to design more postcards specific to your caregiver needs, you can always get in touch with me and I'll be happy to do that for you. We've heard over and over again that caregivers like to pick up like smaller things because it's easier for them to handle. So postcards generally work a lot better for caregivers. So here, that's a tip for you. If you have like a health fair, if you have some kind of an in-person support group, definitely use postcards along with those. Even if they're stacked at a corner, the caregivers can pick one out on the way out. Does that answer the question which in the chat box?
So, Bryn, do you happen to know, there are some of these already pre-printed materials at the GWAR office, right? Do you know what we have on hand of people if they wanted to have these mailed out?
I don't know how many are at the office, but I can certainly find out, and I know the guy who can get them to me if I need some more.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to send some of these flyers or postcards. We have a printing partner who does like a very good job on like high quality paper. Happy to do that. Rosalie, the one-page flyer is available on the staff space. You can take a look. It's also something that if you want to use it on your Facebook site, there's a lot of social media posts which you can also use instead. So I'll leave that creative decision to you, but there's a lot of things you can choose from. If you are specifically looking for the tribal and elder newsletter, I can work with our content team to have some language that would stick well with that community, if you want. I see another question. Will Trualta be a program that is available indefinitely moving forward? It is going to be available for as long as we have the contract, and as of now, it looks like indefinitely. So please use it as much as you can, because there's something in this for everyone. I want to share some success stories in marketing the program, which we've seen with some other clients, which we've seen in some other regions. These might be helpful just for you to hear. Number one, you could set up a Trualta workstation at your local library. This is probably a very good idea for regions which do not have a very strong internet connection, maybe some rural regions. If there's a library, if there's a senior center or a caregiver coalition in that region, there could be a Trualta workstation. Caregivers can go there, access the lessons. They can even download the PDF and print it and take home to refer to it whenever they have a chance. This has worked really well in some regions. You could put in a postcard in your Meals on Wheels deliveries. Pretty much the same concept as having information about Trualta in caregiver support packets. I love that idea, by the way. But postcards and Meals on Wheels deliveries every now and then reinforces the fact that the Trualta portal is available to caregivers. For caregivers who are already registered on the portal, it serves as a reminder to get online if they need anything. For new caregivers who are not on the portal, it's a good hook for them to register on the portal. Third, tweet or post about the caregiving resources. I would highly encourage you to go into the content, poke around, and if there's something that you really like, share it. Share it on your social media. We have seen that caregivers in today's day and age are like really getting tech savvy. They're on social media, they're on Facebook, they check their emails. This is where you want to get them. This is where you want to talk to them about this. You could use the lessons as a follow-up item on your support groups. Again, this is a little bit of this is an idea that needs a little more of planning, but we've seen this works really well for caregiver support groups that want to give some kind of homework or an action item to caregivers. For example, we've seen a client in Mississippi assign a lesson to the caregivers in the support group beforehand, like communication and dementia, and then they discuss on the day of the support group what they felt about the communication tips and techniques given on the lesson. And then for the next support group, they assign another lesson like wandering or verbal and physical aggression, something like that. And then the fifth one would be loop in your local healthcare providers or facilities. Places, neurosurgery, sorry, I'm losing my words. Cognitive clinics or memory cafes or memory units places where caregivers or families get the diagnosis of dementia, or even doctor's offices. This is where you could send some of your postcards and just have them sit there where accessible to caregivers. If there is a caregiver who has just received a diagnosis, they're very likely going to be overwhelmed and they would need some information. So that is a point in time where Trualta could be most useful to them. So looping in local healthcare providers or facilities would be an excellent idea going forward. Absolutely. We'll be sharing the PowerPoint after as a PDF after the call. Thanks for the interest, Brenda. Are there any questions you guys have right now?
Can I just say I love the emergency planning guide?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our content team has worked on this for like a long time. And, some caregivers said to us, when June is coming, they want to be prepared for hurricane season. And that was the whole concept of the origin of the emergency planning workbook. Thank you so much. Is there something you specifically like about it? Have you been able to share it with caregivers?
Yes, I have been able to share it with caregivers. Again, this is Lisa from Sheboygan. And, it's a lot of common sense, but what I always say is that it puts it all in one place. And it really makes you think about things when you go through it and you go, oh my goodness, that totally makes sense. I maybe wouldn't have thought of that on my own. And they can go through the, the whole process with the family. But I love it. It's similar to the AARP's caring shared, they have a caring workbook as well, but I really like this one. And based on a care consultation last week, I emailed this out to a family caregiver. So, I mean, it even has where you put a picture of the care recipient on here, that type of thing. So definitely great for folks caring for someone with memory loss.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's great feedback. I'll pass on the kudos to the person responsible for this.
Thank you.
Any other ideas or thoughts you guys have, or something that you want to ask me about? Any best practices you want to know about?
I will offer, this is Bryn, just as a reminder for folks that we wanted to kind of launch 2022 with this really, really great in-depth and comprehensive review of Trualta. So new folks can become familiar, people who are familiar with Trualta already, but maybe just not as aware of the resources. This is ongoing. So we will have the privilege of having Kunal and possibly Laura Jane at our upcoming meetings, just for 10 or 15 minutes of updates, questions. So if your wheels are turning now and you can't think of questions or ideas or just how to put this into practice quite today, we have time ongoing, and they're going to be here as a support ongoing.
Thanks, Bryn. That's definitely helpful. If you here are some next steps for you guys. If you do not have access yet, please get registered. If you don't have access, reach out to Bryn or me, and we can set you up with access. Don't be shy. Take a look around, poke around the portal. You will not break anything. That's a concern we've heard. Everything is fine. You won't break anything. Share the link with your caregivers. That's wisconsincaregiver.trualta.com. Share your local resources with Bryn or me, and we'll work to add those to the portal. We want you to have ownership of this portal just as much as anyone on this call today. This is your portal. Add your local resources And this is a place where you can do that. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out to us. We try to do our best to reach out, to respond in 24 business hours. Does not always happen, but we try. And for the next workshop topic, while we have 3 minutes, I want to pick your brain on what you want the next topic to be. What to do when a caregiver registers? Do you want a content overview, or do you want personalizing caregivers' learning journey? These are the 3 topics right now. Pick the one you want to hear about on the next one. And if you want to hear about something else, we'll put it on later workshops. And the link is, I believe, in the chat box right now. I'll take that as a +1 from Tricia on content overview. It seems like content overview is getting really popular. I think we might have a winner there.
Yep, seeing lots of votes come in for content overview.
What I'm seeing on the poll results, there's 44% on the first, what to do when a caregiver registers, 33% on content overview, but I think it's going to be easily balanced with all of the votes in the chat box. So we'll do content overview for the next one, and we'll put in, I'll send like a PDF for what to do when a caregiver registers. We'll discuss it as a workshop in more detail on the workshop after the next one. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. If you have any questions, please reach out.
Thank you both. I appreciate your time, and I do want to also respect everybody else's time. It is 10:59. I would just add that something I learned from Kunal's presentation today is that TruAlta is available regardless of NFCSP, AFCSP qualifications. And I know sometimes if a person comes in as a caregiver to the ADRC or your aging unit, and maybe that's just not a good fit for them, one of the programs that we have to offer. This is a very, free, low kind of labor, if you will, resource that can be offered to caregivers. So that's definitely a highlight. We too will be exploring putting the TruAlta widget either on the wisconsincaregiver.org site or possibly on one of the pages for the caregiver sites on GWAR. Just really, really happy to hear that people are already using it. This can be a great help so you don't have to reinvent the wheel as far as resources or activities for your caregivers. And in closing, to give you a heads up, in the month of March, we will be offering or actually inviting our Dementia Care Specialist Program Manager with DHS and the Statewide Dementia Care Specialist Network to our next meeting so we can talk about the successes we've had, the opportunities going forward to further improve our collaboration. And then I believe it would be in the month of May, we have a couple of people who are interested, United Way 211. And then I've had a few questions about how Title IIIB or supplemental services funding works with all of the Older Americans Act programming. So my supervisor, John Schnabel, also offered to come and participate, whether it's a May or July's meeting. So keep ideas coming through. We do pay attention and listen to make sure that these meetings and our time together are worthwhile and we're giving you what you need. With that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Keep in touch and we'll see you, if not before, in March. Take care, everybody.